The internment of Japanese and Japanese Americans in World War II is one of the darkest and most controversial chapters of American history. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States government issued Executive Order 9066, which empowered the military to round up anyone of Japanese ancestry and place them in internment camps. The relocation of Japanese Americans during World War II was cruel to the Japanese citizens living in America due to the harsh living conditions that sometimes led to death. The compromise was that the Americans realized what they did was wrong and made new rules and regulations to fix it.
Japanese and Japanese Americans were sent to internment camps after the attack on Pearl Harbor. They were sent to these camps from rumors spreading fueled by race prejudice of a plot to sabotage the war effort. No matter the loyalty of a person, liberties of 117,000 people of Japanese descendants were violated while they were sent to these camps.
On February 19, 1942, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which forced all Japanese Americans, regardless of loyalty or citizenship, to evacuate the West Coast. No comparable order applied to Hawaii, one-third of whose population was Japanese American, or to Americans of German and Italian ancestry. 10 internment camps were established in California, Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Wyoming, Colorado, and Arkansas, eventually holding 120,000 people. Many were forced to sell their property at a severe loss before departure. Social problems beset the internees. Immigrants were deprived of their traditional respect when their children, the American born, were alone permitted authority positions within the camps. 5,589 renounced their American citizenship, although a federal judge later ruled that renunciations made behind barbed wire were void. Some 3,600 Japanese Americans entered the armed forces from the camps, as did 22,000 others who lived in Hawaii or outside the relocation zone. The famous all-Japanese 442nd Regimental Combat Team won numerous decorations for its deeds in Italy and Germany.
The Japanese Americans have been denied multiple rights. All the rights that were denied to the Japanese Americans are freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, the right to assemble, freedom from unreasonable searches and seizures, right to be indicted or to be informed of these charges, right to life, liberty, and property, right to call in a favorable witness, right to legal counsel, right to reasonable bail, freedom from cruel and unusual punishment, right to vote, right to habeas corpus, rights against involuntary servitude, and the right to equal protection under the laws. Many of these rights are basic rights we have today. Examples of that would be how Japanese Americans were denied the guarantee of freedom of speech and press, with the prohibition of using Japanese languages in public meetings and the censorship of camp newspapers. Also, the right to assemble was abridged when mass meetings were prohibited and the English was required to be the primary language used at all public gatherings.
The Supreme Court upheld the legality of the relocation order in Hirabayashi versus United States and Korematsu versus United States. Early in 1945, Japanese American citizens of loyalty were allowed to return to the West Coast, but not until March 1946 was the last camp closed. In 1948, law provided for reimbursement for property losses by those interned. In 1988, Congress awarded restitution payments of $20,000 to each survivor of the camps. It is estimated that about 73,000 people will eventually receive this compensation for the violation of their liberties and freedoms.
The relocation of Japanese Americans during World War II was cruel to the Japanese citizens living in America due to the harsh living conditions that sometimes led to death. The compromise was that the Americans realized what they did was wrong and made new rules and regulations. In the end, America had realized what they had done was wrong and had to set the record straight and to right their mistake. New rules were put in place that did the Japanese Americans right to what the Americans did wrong in the internment camps.